You confess to the police that you are guilty of your DUI. Can you get your DUI charge dropped? Let me explain this scenario. You get charged with a DUI, and in the heat of the moment, you refuse to speak to a lawyer. You give a statement to the police where you admit to driving while under the influence of alcohol. In other words, you admit to the police that you are guilty of a DUI. In this situation, is there anything you can do to get your DUI charge dropped? That's what I'm going to cover in this video. I'm Dan Joffe, DUI lawyer at NextLaw. Getting a DUI is stressful, and there are times when that stress will lead you to inadvertently admit that you drove while you were under the influence of alcohol. In other words, you accidentally admitted you were guilty. In these situations, clients ask if it's possible to get the DUI charge dropped. And the answer is maybe. If you are arrested, we tell clients to never give a statement to the police. And the reason why is that you may say something that can be used against you. Now, in cases where someone has already admitted their guilt to the police, at that point, our goal is to try and get the statement thrown out. In other words, we argue that your statement admitting your guilt should not be admitted into the evidence. And how we do that often relies on the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Charter, which is part of the Canadian Constitution, has a set of rules that protects Canadians from the government's actions, including the police. If, for example, the police didn't follow a rule on your arrest, then it's possible that any evidence secured after the breach of the rule will not be admissible in court. In other words, the statement where you admitted you were guilty would not be admissible, which may weaken the case against you to the point where you would beat your DUI charge. Finally, if you've been charged with drunk driving, DUI, impaired driving, or refusing a breathalyzer test, your legal strategy can make the difference between winning and losing. Reach out, let's have a confidential discussion about your case. The call is free, and you can book a time by clicking on the link in the description below.